Can we trust our legal system? An illusion transformed to a delusion, creating a tragic conclusion. Hello, my name's Dermot. It means free man in ancient Celtic. I am, thank God, trained in engineering, which has nothing to do with law, although it is the study of the laws of science. I've run a business making cheesecakes and have exported to Japan. For at least 8 years I was involved in exporting cheesecake to Japan's largest family restaurant chain, Skylark, and was nominated New Exporter of the Year in 1992. In 1996 I moved to Smith Street in Collingwood, by the way still making Melbourne's best cheesecakes. I learned a lot about the other side of life, and like many others was forced to endure the ravages of an open heroin market, an example of a government experiment, an illusion that soon became a delusion with a tragic conclusion. The city of Yarra ended up with the highest number of people dying from overdoses of heroin anywhere in the world in the year 2000. I've had a fortunate life which has allowed me to meet and engage with many people and groups. In 2004, my mother passed away, and because she trusted the legal system, after all, my father, a Melbourne University academic, taught law and helped to develop the Trade Practices Act of 1974. She ended up nominating the members of the law firm Russell Kennedy to work in conjunction with my sister as executors of her estate. She had no idea how bad these bastards are, as she had migrated to Australia and believed and had blind faith in the legal system. As a result of the processes used by the law firm Russell Kennedy in administering her estate, I was enforced to engage with the legal profession, a profession that has displayed a dearth of moral aptitude that I had not yet encountered. I discovered a profession that has no respect for culture or for family, that is prepared to lie and conceal the wishes of the dead so as to feast upon the estate. I discovered a profession whose regulators turn a blind eye to these criminal activities, despite the fact that they are covered by the Crimes Act, Section 82(1), which I will read to you. A person who dishonestly, with a view to gain for himself or another, or with intent to cause loss to another, destroys or conceals any valuable security, any will or other testamentary document, or any original document of or belonging to or filed or deposited in any court of justice or any government department is guilty of an indictable offence and liable to level 5 imprisonment, 10 years max. For me, I have no interest in law whatsoever. I do not communicate in gibberish and abhor huffamania. Huffamania being the art of using unintelligible language to create an illusion of superior intellect and trust in order to extract money for lawyers at the expense of vulnerable people. It is a language designed to create confusion, which I discovered is supported by a network of collusion that never ends in a conclusion apart from the inevitable, and that is you run out of money, which I discovered is a form of systemic grave robbery that is an acceptable practice within the Australian legal culture. I have always viewed the legal profession with disdain that any self-respecting creature views a predatory scavenger. I have always viewed them from the perspective of the peaceful herd animal and see them as jackals, hyenas and vultures, just a species that prey on the weak and vulnerable who don't give a toss about the development of our culture or our families who form our community. This was the extent of my understanding of our legal system, and as I had no interest in it, as far as I felt I didn't need to go any further. Unfortunately, this was not to be the case, and through the ineptitude that I've encountered when dealing with this profession, I've become to understand that it is one that earns its keep from death, debt, divorce, and disability. I'd like to reflect upon what our legal system actually is and what roles it performs for our community. Lawyers are professionals who deal with disagreements between parties. They call these disagreements disputes. People will always have disagreements. It's a natural component of living in communities and has gone on since the beginning of time. For a modern day society to function at its best requires a system of resolving these disagreements between people in a transparent manner in order to attain the truth, so as the system can be trusted by our community. We would expect to encounter a service that was efficient, accurate and fairly priced, so as to minimise the harmful impacts disagreements can have on family development. Notice how the people, the parties, and the lawyers turn these disagreements into disputes. We think we're going to see a lawyer, so as our disagreement with another person will be resolved. Instead, we find we've gone to a profession that gains financial advantage by turning a disagreement into a dispute and removing the human aspect by turning people into opposing parties. Did I say we'd entered the lawyer's party? Unfortunately, these parties are not a lot of fun for the guests, as they see their families' wealth stripped from them by an expensive, unaccountable and heartless system that has absolutely no regard for family development and has been developed to create a lot of confusion without getting to a conclusion. They don't even speak a language that the everyday person can understand. Would you trust someone with your life who is charging you $400 an hour and speaks a language that even their own species has trouble understanding? A construct for confusion. The illusion created by lawyers, as they are the ones who develop, administer and interpret our laws, is that we can trust them to use the tools of transparency to determine the truth. In actual fact, they waste a lot of time and money working on hiding information that does reveal the truth, as this process makes them money and hurts your family. When you become a victim of this process and try to complain to the relevant regulatory authority, the Victorian Legal Services Commissioner, you discover the colusion and that they are a self-regulating industry that is not very good at investigating complaints against its own. You discover that this profession has been able to avoid its obligations to Australian consumers by creating their own regulatory laws under the separate state jurisdictions, where consumers become clients who have no consumer rights. They have gone so far as to request all state-run consumer protection agencies to refer complaints against the legal profession to the Legal Services Commissioner, who operates under various state-administered legal professional acts. Our self-serving legal profession is delusional when it believes it can continue to self-regulate and remain unaccountable to the Australian public by avoiding its obligations under the Trade Practices Act, now called Australian Consumer Law, which they have got away with for the past 40 years. The continued fanatical protection of our adversarial legal system by the legal profession and their refusal to move towards a transparent, collaborative, truth-seeking system are further evidence of this delusion. The continued fanatical protection of our adversarial legal system by the legal profession and their refusal to move towards a transparent, collaborative, truth-seeking system are further evidence of the delusion. Have in mind that the transparent, truth-seeking system that our community can trust would be less costly to run. The savings would flow directly to our families and our communities. You can bet your bottom dollar on the reason the legal profession refused to engage upon change to a better system is that it would drastically affect their income stream and their power base within Australia, and would reduce the income of many lawyers. The legal system is as essential to the healthy workings of our society as is the blood that runs through our bodies. When it is confusing, expensive, and time-consuming, it becomes parasitic upon our society, which is displaying signs of a sickness, and if left untreated, can result in the death of the organism. For the benefit of our culture and our families and our communities, we must have a legal system that we can trust, which is no longer an illusion, that suffers from a delusion, that feeds off confusion, aided and abetted by collusion, that leaves its victims without a conclusion apart from poverty. The legal system that does not have the community pondering the question, lawyers or grave robbers. Now one day a farmer came down from Glenroe. His name was Ned. He happened to be from the Kelly family and had some troubles with the banks. Anyway, he's walking down Elizabeth Street and he comes across a pawnbroker. And there's a big sign outside, everything for sale. And the son's in there and he explains that his father's passed away and everything's for sale. Anyway, the farmer finds a statue, a bronze statue of a rat. It looked a bit like this, but this is an export award showing the seed of Australia coming out of the ground. Anyway, he finds this bronze statue of a rat and he goes up to the pawnbroker and he says, well, how much is the statue of the rat? And the pawnbroker said, well, it's $5 for the rat and $100 for the story. He says, look, I'll take the statue, I won't buy the story. So he hands over $5, starts to walk outside and walks down Elizabeth Street towards the station, which is next to the river. He looks back and there's quite a few rats following him. Well, he meanders down the river towards the docks. Anyway, he gets to the docks and he turns around and all he can see is rats coming at him. So he throws the statue of the rat, he throws it into the sea. Oh God, it's a heavy statue. And all the rats jump into the sea and they drown. Anyway, so he walks back to the pawnbroker's place. He walks inside and he says, oh, would you have a statue of a lawyer?